At the time of its introduction, one of the most popular light freighters, and almost forgotten today, the YT-1200 series was a reliable, easily adaptable, and hugely influential class produced by Corellian Engineering Corporation in the decades prior to the Clone Wars. Well liked by those who flew it, the design paved the path for the light freighters which followed, and was produced in a dizzying variety of variants and subclasses during its run. Measuring in at 28 meters long, with a cargo capacity of 70 tons, Class 2 hyperdrive, and room for half a dozen passengers, the 1200 and its variants were aimed squarely at small shipping lines and single-ship tramp outfits in the galactic periphery. With their small cargo capacity, the ships were intended to trade in low-volume, high-value cargoes such as high technology, luxury goods, medical supplies, and artworks. Following on from the moderate success of the YT-1100 light freighters, CEC engineers were tasked with designing a successor which would build upon the strengths of the last ship, but also appeal to a wider share of the market than the 1100. A design which had been profitable for the company, but failed to gain significant market share and proved somewhat underwhelming for the average consumer. Understandably, given this context, the design team assembled to prepare the next class in the YT line would elect to go with a clean slate design, maintaining the overall saucer shape of prior designs in the series, but creating a far more streamlined, lower profile, and more efficient space frame. Building upon this, the design team also chose to make the ship highly modular in nature, with a dizzying variety of options made available to customers at the dealership, and a vast array of aftermarket options possible as a result of this modularity. Perhaps most iconic of all, this ship would be the first to introduce the now famous cantilevered cockpit to the YT series, with the stock configuration YT-1200 featuring a starboard-mounted cockpit module connected to the rest of the ship via a small corridor. Though other options for the cockpit position were also made available, such as mirrored port-side cockpit, as well as more conventional center-mounted cockpits, which were also made available. Initially, these design changes would be derided by reviewers and journalists, who lambasted the changes in cockpit location as a sad attempt by the company to reclaim its position as an innovator by making pointless cosmetic changes rather than simply building what worked. These initial opinionated voices were soon silenced, however, as ships began making their way to customers. Early adopters lavishing praise upon their new freighters, with compliments to the available engine power, efficient internal layout, long range, and ease of handling. As word of mouth from buyers spread around the light freighter community, initial criticism was quickly overpowered as more and more customers chose the 1200 as their next light freighter. Obviously, CEC had a significant hit on their hands. The 1200 had overcome the meager sales success and mixed reputation of its predecessor and established its own solid reputation right out of the gate. And with sales of the 1200 in its first year, putting it at the top of the company's sales charts, the ship had a bright future ahead of it. That is not saying that it was all smooth sailing for the 1200, however. Initial ships suffered from a host of minor software glitches, such as lights dimming and going as bright as they could on a random basis. Some ships had issues with power lines getting kinked during production, but on the whole, these minor issues did not seriously affect sales, as CEC was able to quickly resolve these issues. The biggest issue which affected the production lines, however, nearly spelled the end of the 1200 within its first year. After much higher than anticipated sales in its first year that it was available on market, the third party responsible for manufacturing the ship's engines reported that due to labor strikes at their factories, they would be unable to deliver further engines for some time. This nearly spelled the death knell for the 1200 and caused production to crash to a halt. Desperately, CEC engineers sought a solution, eventually settling on replacing the ship's original dual engines with a trio of smaller thrusters of an in-house design, which produced similar power at a similar level of fuel consumption as the original design's dual engines. CEC marketed this change as the YT-1200 light freighter. The shift in design hardly slowed sales, though some effect was had on numbers sold by the slight halt in production while a fix was found. The 1210 picked up where the 1200 left off generally, and even after the original engine manufacturer reported that their production issues had been resolved, the 1210 continued in production as yet another option for the series. Clearly, CEC had a hit on their hand, and with the engine fix found and a steady stream of orders coming in, the company decided to radically ramp up production. The 1210 would replace several other small freighter and transport designs on production lines as the company sought to keep ahead of orders. This decision resulted in ready availability to customers and short wait times. Cost reductions in production reflected lower sales prices. However, this would come to bite the company several years later, once CEC released the class's successor, the YT-1300. CEC had anticipated that sales of the 1300 would be slow initially, with customers preferring to stick with the tried and true, much cheaper 1200 and 1210 rather than risk the brand new 1300, which was initially intended merely as a transitional design to update production lines while the 1200 continued to sell until a new design could replace it as the premier light freighter for CEC. However, despite these intentions, the 1300 proved to be an immediate runaway success. The class entering the market at a time when the light freighter market was exploding rapidly, as medium and small shipping lines disappeared throughout the galaxy, outcompeted by the likes of the Trade Federation and mega shipping lines, leaving millions of pilots, operators, and dealers suddenly without work, and a new, vast market of small planets throughout the galaxy, too peripheral to be profitable for the megacorps to bother with, but which demanded steady, reliable trade. The unanticipated success of the 1300 pulled the floor out from under the 1200 and 1210 models, which saw sales immediately plummet, leaving CEC with a massive number of these ships, which suddenly no one wanted thanks to the low initial price of the 1300 and very generous financing options made available by the company to prospective buyers. These freighters would sit around in CEC inventory for years, with the company trying various schemes to sell the ships off at a loss. Bulk discounts were provided for customers purchasing the ships in quantity. Ships were broken down to be used as a source of spare parts for the ships already in customers' hands, and many would become corporate transports and local tugs at CEC factories, putting a significant dent in the glut of ships lying around, but not succeeding in getting rid of all ships. In desperation, CEC would do the unthinkable: spend money. All remaining 1200s and 1210s were taken in, given new engines, reinforced hulls, more modern drives, heavier shielding, upgraded armament, and larger fuel capacities, and then marketed off as light patrol vessels and military transports to sector, planetary, and private defense forces throughout the galaxy. Rebranded as the YT-1250, this semi-military variant would not be a lucrative venture for the company, but it would turn a profit, and succeeded in eventually getting rid of the last of the 1200s clogging up CEC warehouses throughout the galaxy, making room for newer, more profitable ships which had replaced it. The 1250 would prove generally popular with users. Many mercenary, anti-piracy groups and defense forces found the design to be competent, comfortable, and easily adaptable, but the design was never produced in significant numbers and only ever sold to the wider market for a brief period. As the years ticked on, the YT-1200 series would see the rise of the separatist movement, outbreak of the Clone Wars, fall of the Republic, rise of the Empire, outbreak of the Galactic Civil War, fall of the Empire, and the rise of the New Republic, all from the sidelines, continuing to ply their trade in the outskirts of the galaxy and keep out of the politics and fighting which consumed much of it during their long service lives. Something of a rare sight, even by the Clone Wars, the 1200, 1210, and 1250 would become rarer and rarer on the space lanes as time wore on, and operators upgraded to steadily more modern vessels. But the important role the ships played in pioneering the design language and establishing the YT series as a premier product line for CEC should not be ignored, and should not be forgotten. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, because that does something, I'm told, reliably. Subscribe to the channel so you know when there's new videos. I've actually done a couple of Corellian Engineering Corporation light freighters by this point. And I plan to do many more to come, because there's a lot of them. My favorite is probably the Barlaws class, which is just a weird one. But yeah, I've also covered, I think, the CR90, which I really like. I enjoy that. I'm tempted to do a CR90 with interior at some point, so I might do that on Minecraft. I might do that on Minecraft. So let me know what your favorite light freighter in Star Wars is. I really should do a video about, like, the best light freighters or something at some point, but, you know, who has the time? Also, if you enjoyed the artwork for this video, you can follow a link in the description. That'll take you to the channel's Patreon, and over there you can get all of the artwork that I make, not just for this video, but for all of the videos on the channel. The artwork itself is free, but if you do join the Patreon and give me the monies, it's like $1. But if you give me monies, then you get videos early. You can vote on topics, you get some behind-the-scenes stuff, things like that. So that is something that you could do if you wanted, but I'm not saying give me money, because, I mean, it's your money. Do with it what you want. I'm not here to tell you to give random people on the internet money. Actually, no, the Crown Prince of Nigeria desperately wants money, I hear. You should probably send some his way, maybe. I mean, or not. I mean, I've also heard that ends badly. I need to make a phone call, now that I think about it, to not the Crown Prince of Nigeria, but definitely a Nigerian area code.